Hello again, back with some more Frostheart and back with chapter 10, which is called Luna. Wrong. Ash and Tobu had tramped back to the watchtower in silence, Ash not daring say a word to his guardian. They arrived to find that the watchtower hatch refused to open, frozen shut, as it often was. Tobu was not in the mood for stubborn hatches. With a grunt, he burst it from its hinges with his shoulder, climbing within as though the hatch had never been there. Ash gulped and followed Tobu inside. The watchtower was cold, as always. The family of pigeons who lived in the rafters, and who did their very best to poo on Ash's head whenever he least expected, bobbed their heads and cooed in surprise at the sudden commotion. Tobu didn't say a word. He just huffed and growled, stomping from one end of the tower to the other in quick, angry strides, banging some bowls together, apparently preparing some food for the two of them to eat. Ash was at a loss for words. He didn't know what to feel. On the one hand, he'd songwoven for the first time, which had been incredible, and he'd saved all those lives. But on the other, he doomed Tobu and himself to an eternity of exile. His mind was barely keeping up with the terrible situation. "We are no longer welcome with the Fearer," Tobu said, stating the obvious. "Your rash thoughtlessness has seen to that." Ash felt he should defend himself, but he was far too tired to try. "We must prepare for the journey ahead," Tobu continued. "To survive the wilds, to travel to another stronghold, you will have to draw on every lesson I have taught you. You will need to have all your wits about you." Ash knew Tobu was an expert. He was the only one the villagers had ever known to have survived a journey through the wilds on foot. It had been why the strongholder had accepted him. Anyone with that much strength and grit had a place among the Fearer. "We will go south. There are more strongholds down there, and if we arrive safely, we shall keep your song weaving a secret. And even if we do somehow survive, it still doesn't end well. I'd still have to hide my power, still pretend to be something I'm not." Ash and his guardian sat and ate their red root in silence. The sad, otherworldly song of the Leviathans could be heard outside, calling him out into the new day. Tears ran down Ash's cheeks. He told himself it was because of the spice of the red root. Ash sat very still. A snowflake landed on the tip of his nose, but he didn't flinch, not a bit. He was far too absorbed in watching the pathfinders as they made the much-needed repairs to their sleigh and unloaded crates and barrels for trade within the stronghold. The Fearer had given Ash and Tobu 2 weeks to make their plans and collect supplies before they had to leave, and so Tobu was out on a hunt, gathering valuable rations for the dangerous journey ahead of them. Ash had been ordered to stay out of the village, so of course he had sneaked in. He was fascinated by the Pathfinder crew. Ash had only ever seen a few Pathfinder arrivals in his whole life. So far from Aurora's embrace with the Fearer, and he had been so young at the time, but the thrill and wonder never grew old. The crew was so strange, so different, covered in weird and wonderful tattoos, their exotic clothes decked with mysterious talismans. Ash's belly rolled with excitement. He'd spent his entire life in the Fearer stronghold, and to see all these outsiders, these people who came from lands so distant they were almost unimaginable, it was no wonder that the arrival of a Pathfinder crew was often the most exciting thing that had happened at the stronghold. One of the crew women spat on the ground. "Whoa!" Ash watched in wonder. They looked so wild. They looked like adventurers. They looked like they were free. Surely this was the only way to travel the Snow Sea, aboard a sunstone-powered sleigh. One of the Pathfinders sang happily as she gazed out to the east with a seeing glass. "The horizon looms before me now. Way-ho, way-ho. We slice through ice with our forward bow." "Shh!" hissed the nearby Fearer Tanner, waving the knife they had been using to scrape an old skin. "It is forbidden to sing here." "Right you are," the Pathfinder said, imitating a sealing motion across her lips. The sound of another singing had been quite literally music to Ash's ears. He hadn't expected quite how pleasant it would sound. The Pathfinder's song about distant horizons brought Ash's parents' lullaby to mind, especially the last few lines, which he dwelled on since he could remember. "Over the horizon to Mother Sun's light, we'll be waiting to hold you tight. Walls can be broken and left behind, following the paths and you will find. Leave the walls behind, follow the paths." Ash thought, beaming. The Pathfinders, the hidden message. Could this be the answer he'd searched for? Most people couldn't leave stronghold walls behind, but Pathfinders could. They could be my ride out of here. Ash didn't know what he would find once he left, but he felt sure his parents were guiding him towards them, and he would be far better off looking for them on a sleigh than in some random stronghold. Besides, anything had to be better than this walking nonsense Toby was on about. Ash gazed in renewed wonder at the Frostheart. It looked longer than 15 Fearer dwellings lined up side by side. A confused tangle of ropes hung high above the curved masts, the hull poised like an arrow, promising to carry the crew wherever they wanted to go. If only I could find a way on board. If only I could convince the Pathfinders to take me with them, to allow me to follow in my parents' footsteps. "You spying on us or something, Fireboy?" came a voice from behind. Ash spun round, letting out a little yelp. It was the Pathfinder girl with the half-shaved hair. She had her arms folded across her chest, one eyebrow raised in question. "Oh, no, no," Ash said, putting on the most high-pitched, ladylike voice he could muster to help. Well, let me do that again. "Oh, no, no," Ash said, putting on the most high-pitched, ladylike voice he could muster to help further his ruse. "I'm just working here on this urine." He realised with horror that he had been hiding behind a big barrel full of the golden liquid the tanners used to treat animal hides. "What am I doing?" Ash screamed in his head. "Why am I putting on a woman's voice?" He dared to look up to see if the girl was buying it, angling his face so that it was mostly hidden by his furs. Her eyebrow rose even higher. She may have been around Ash's age, but she had the confidence of someone much older. Ash noticed that the long cloak she wore over one shoulder had been woven with patterns resembling constellations, and a small star-shaped trinkets glinted amid her dark hair. I was just interested, that's all," Ash confessed. "It's been moons since I've seen Pathfinders. I mean, I have seen Pathfinders before. My parents are Pathfinders, but I don't know my parents. I mean, I do know my parents, but I haven't seen them for a long time, and I just thought that maybe..." "Stars above, calm down. I was just messing with you," the girl interrupted. "Thanks for saving us back there, by the way." Panic rose in Ash. "I don't know what you mean. That wasn't me," he said, backing away. "Really? Because your height, your hair, your voice, it all sounds mighty familiar, and I'd recognise those scrawny legs from a mile away." "Scrawny?" The girl screwed her face up and paced round Ash, inspecting him with squinted eyes. She began to poke him. "Hey, what are you doing?" Ash asked, swatting her probing finger away. "You don't look that scary," she replied, clearly disappointed. I'm not trying to look scary," Ash said, puzzled. "Huh," she said, folding her arms. Ash couldn't tell if that was a good her or a bad her. From her expression, he suspected it was the latter. Suddenly, she lifted his lips up with her fingers to examine his teeth, Ash spluttering with shock. "No fangs," she said, before pulling at his furs. "No scary armour," she raised up his hands. "No claws." "Some songweaver you are." "Songweavers don't look like that," Ash said, stepping away. With a jolt, he realised he didn't know if this was actually true or not. He'd heard the frightening legends grown-ups told of a mysterious thing called puberty, and how awful it was, and how much your body changed. What if it was even worse for songweavers? Was he going to grow claws and fangs as he got older? Ash gulped. He really didn't know much about being a songweaver at all. Don't matter if you're scary, though. You obviously have guts on the inside," the girl said. "That was something brave you did in front of all those people. Especially for someone of your kind." She punched him in the shoulder, a strange way to say thank you, Ash thought. But the fact that she had said, "your kind," had hurt Ash more than the punch. Apparently, she saw this reaction in his face. "I don't think there's anything wrong with songweavers. You understand? Well, I mean, you're the only one I've ever met, but just, you know what I mean. No one likes songweavers." Ash's shoulders slumped even lower. "Is she trying to make me feel better?" The girl suddenly looked behind her. "Look, I gotta shoot before Cap has a go at me. Enjoy your wee barrel, Fireboy," she waved, turning back to the dock. "Good, but whack!" A snowball smashed into the side of Ash's face. "Ow!" he cried out, and the Pathfinder girl whipped round to see what had happened. Ash put his hand to his stinging cheek. It hadn't been the soft, powdery snowball that signalled the beginning of a friendly snowball fight. It was one that was more ice than snow, that stung and hurt on impact. The type used it as a declaration of war. The type that had been launched from a sling. Ash turned his head to face his attacker. It was Thor and his friends, Raze and Frey, who were far bulkier than anyone on Fearer rations had a right to be. Of course it was them. "Songweaver!" Thor called with an infuriating smile. "Still singing love songs to monsters? We know how much you love 'em, monster lover. You smell like one. You even live like one," Raze chipped in. Too much of a freak to live with us humans, Thor agreed. Better off running to whatever hole other song freak monster lovers like you call home. Though I'd be surprised if they wanted you either. Ash tried his best to ignore them, suddenly very focused on his feet. He had been thrilled that Pathfinder was talking to him, let alone being nice to him, even though she knew he was a songweaver. It made him feel less of a, weirdo, but now he was being ridiculed right in front of her. He couldn't help but notice her take a step away from him, frowning as she did so. "Ooh, monsters, I'm Ash and I love you all so much," Frey trilled in a high-pitched voice, fluttering his eyelids. The other two laughed and began dancing around daintily, Thor puckering his lips and making kissing sounds. Ash was trembling, but didn't react. He didn't want to provoke them further, but this annoyed them even more. Thor came over and nudged him hard. "You not hearing us or something, monster lover?" Yeah, Ash murmured. "Really?" Thor pretended to ponder. "Sounds to me like you're having trouble hearing us. Maybe because you're too busy playing this." Ash tried to pull away from Thor's reaching hand, but Thor was too fast and he snatched Ash's ocarina from his belt. "This is a monster caller if I ever saw one," Thor said with a vicious grin. "Give it back! Thor, please! My parents gave me that," Ash said, reaching for the instrument, but he was held back by Raze and Frey. He felt tears stabbing at the back of his eyes. Thor chuckled, twisting the ocarina around his fingers before shrugging. "You know what, Ash? If this means so much to you, you can have it back." He placed his hands either side of the ocarina and snapped off the windway before throwing it down. Ash cried out as though he'd been struck. His body froze in horror. Thor and his lackeys laughed and pushed him to the ground. Ash picked up the pieces of his ocarina, his whole body shaking, but said nothing. Thor smirked a crooked smile before turning to the Pathfinder girl, who had been watching the whole scene unfold in silence. "She's probably trying not to laugh along with the rest of them," Ash thought miserably. "I'd get out of here fast, Pathfinder, or he'll probably try to bore you to death with a song he wrote," Thor scoffed. "He's no fearer. Visiting travellers should talk to a real fearer, not freakish wannabes." The Pathfinder seemed confused, looking from Thor to Ash. "And where would I find a real fearer?" "Don't have to look far." Thor lifted both thumbs towards himself and his friends. The Pathfinder's eyes brightened. "Really? I can hang out with you guys? That would be amazing," she said, clutching both sides of her face in excitement, framing her huge smile. Ash could do nothing but look at the ground, his heart sinking. "Of course you can," Thor said, smug in his triumph. "We can show you the Great Pyre, show you how good a real fear hunter shoots a bow. Maybe then we can pick on some other poor small kid who's done nothing wrong and has no knuckle dragon mates to back him up. That would be great fun, wouldn't it?" the girl asked, her eyes glinting. Thor's smile faltered. He was beginning to suspect a trap. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it does go against everything us Pathfinders stand for. Helping people out, unifying all the different strongholds and all that boring, wholesome stuff. Yeah, it's way more fun to be an absolute cowardly drool dribbler, said the Pathfinder, stalking right up to Thor and staring him in the face, fists clenched and a storm raging in her eyes. "You better be careful," Thor began. "Oh, I know. I should be very careful of warriors as brave and powerful as you guys. I've already seen how valiantly you defeated this mighty, intimidating foe. A Pathfinder crew would be lucky to have you lads like you aboard." The bullies stood flabbergasted. This girl had fast become Ash's favourite person in the whole wide world. "You don't scare me," Thor spat, backing away. "So, you're not going to show me around the stronghold? Oh, what a shame," the girl shouted after the bullies as they fled. "Thank you," Ash said, finding his voice at last. "Those guys are idiots." "Shh, that was nothing. You should try finding Yori, our engineer, for the last scrap of dinner. Anyways, I'm glad you're alright, but I better go." "Wait, please, is it true what they said?" Ash asked the girl. "What, that you smell like a monster? Maybe. Don't really have a nose for it, to be honest, spending weeks on end with a crew of sweaty, smelly, grimy, unwashed... No, I mean, about the songweavers gathering out in the wilds. Our alderman mentioned it too. A songweaver stronghold? Have you ever come across something like that out there?" Ash's heart fluttered with hope. The girl thought on this for a moment. Well, there are rumours. It's a legend, really. No one's actually ever found the Songweaver stronghold, so it's probably just a story. But there's a chance that it exists," Ash asked, his eyes shining. "Could that be where my parents have gone? They said my father might have been a Songweaver, that he mentioned this place." Yeah, I guess there's always a chance of something exists. I mean, you fear are so far out, people don't think you exist, but Look at you all out here existing away regardless. It'll be out in the middle of nowhere if it's anywhere, but hey, that's exactly where we tend to go. I'll let you know if we ever find it, if we ever come this way again. But now I really gotta go. Sleigh won't fix itself. Right, Ash said, but not really sure what to say. The girl headed back to the doctor's sleigh, but stopped before she got too far. Hey, Fireboy, she called, filling Ash with hope. Always stand tall, yeah? Don't let him get you down. My name's Luna, by the way. Luna, Ash repeated. She stuck her hand out in front of his face. He hesitated, then shook it. My name's Ash. Ash the Terrible, Ash the Destroyer, Ash the eternally grim and slightly peckish, am I right? She said. Ash's smile left his face, but she nudged him with her shoulder. Only messing. It was good to meet you, Ash the kind of small-sized. And with that, Luna ran back to the sleigh to help her crew prepare to leave. And that is the end of chapter 10.